Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome back to the Pretty Rich Teacher podcast. I am so excited to chat with you all today. I have a special guest today, so I'm going to introduce her. She is someone who found me on TikTok. She is a transition teacher. We were yapping a little bit before this because, like, oh, this is our first time meeting, but I'm like, she reached out to me. I was like, yes, girl, let's get on this podcast and chat. I love to chat
Mhm.
with any transition teacher who is willing to share their journey. Our goal is to, at least for this podcast, my goal is to like show other teachers proof. A lot of
Yeah,
teachers have a lot of like, I wanna leave. And I've been saying, I don't believe the story that you're not able to transition. You're probably just not doing things right. So without
yeah.
further ado, I'm going to introduce Carla. Carla is a transition teacher. I don't know her whole story yet. So we're all gonna find out together. She was yapping before this, but I was like, you know what, pause. Let's get this on the podcast. So Carla, how are you? Say hi to the people.
Hi. Hey, people.
All right, girl, so tell us a little bit about your education background. How long were you teaching? And then I guess just tell us the start of like why you got into education and then what made you want to leave. So let's just start there.
Woo, child, that's a lot. Okay. Let me let me go back into the archives.
Go nigga roll.
So I'm from Brooklyn, New York, originally born and raised. And as far as how I got into teaching, growing up, like when I was younger, I always loved like reading. Like I would read to my teddy bears. And I contemplated being a teacher for quite some time. And then once I got a little bit older, I was like, teachers don't make no money. I'm not doing that.
Come on
And
point.
so and so when I got to college, I actually was focusing on my I had declared a major in speech pathology and audiology. And then but I didn't quite understand how much science was involved in that profession. And I was just like, oh, I was just like, I didn't hard sciences? No, like that's cute. I was just like, I'm more of a social sciences girly. And like simultaneously, I think my sophomore year I had enrolled in a sociology course and I feel like my level of consciousness of, race relations, social injustice, all that kind of stuff grew to like another level after my first sociology course. So then I kind of decided I wanted to focus more on sociology and like activism and politics and stuff like that. And, I think I was kind of undecided once I got to senior year, like, do I go the law school route? Do I do, like, ed policy? I was leaning more towards ed policy, but I felt like I can't get into ed policy and be effective if I've never had on the ground experience as a teacher.
Mhm.
So, I was just like, "Okay, I might be a teacher for a little bit," but I still was, like, kinda unsure. So, after college, I worked for, like, almost 2 years, and then, but I was working with children in an after school and Saturday writing program as like a program coordinator. So still very much involved in like the academia of it all.
Mhm.
And then I was always interested in joining the Peace Corps because I had like had an opportunity to live in West Africa in Liberia after graduation for like a brief internship, like a 3-month internship. And I wanted to go back to Africa. So I applied for the Peace Corps while I was still in Brooklyn working, my full-time job after college, got accepted in 2012 and then dipped out. And of course, one of the, most of the time people when they join Peace Corps, they end up being teachers.
Mhm.
So I was teaching middle school and high schoolers how to speak English in Guinea, which is a French speaking West African country. And so then I was like, I guess your girl is a teacher. You know what I'm saying?
I'm a teacher early.
Came back to New York, was working as like a grant writer in a nonprofit for a little bit, hated it, or more so hated my supervisor.
Mhm.
And so then a friend of mine was like, "You would be such an amazing teacher. Like, let me refer you." So she referred me for like a middle school teaching role at one of the charter schools that she worked at. I didn't know anything about charter schools at the time. So, but I was just so excited that she even thought I could do it. So I was just like, okay, girl. Cause she was a phenomenal teacher. Like she's gotten awards and all this stuff. So then they reach out to me like 2 days later. They're like, "Hey, girl, so we would like to interview you." And I'm like, "Okay." And I'm thinking that they're gonna like just talk to me and maybe put me in the pool of people that they'll reach out to for the next school year because they reached out to me at the end of June.
Mhm.
I'm not thinking they trying to place me into nobody's classroom in 2 weeks.
Okay,
You
so So basically, what I'm hearing so far is this teaching interview. So you have teaching experience, but you have not been like a formal like classroom teacher. And then they called you in for an interview. You thought, okay, I'll be in the pool, but they're like, okay, you start tomorrow.
Exactly. With people's children.
This is good. This is good. And I want to pause here because we're gonna talk about also how you were able to do corporate interviewing, but I just want to reiterate for teachers, the interview process that we have as teachers is in the most loving way possible, y'all. They handed out job. You got a post. You want to
Mhm.
teach? Oh, you want? Oh, since you said you want to teach, let's sign the dotted line right here, baby girl. Sign right here. You start tomorrow.
Literally.
So, what were your thoughts on that? And then you were teaching. So, like, first, like, what was your thoughts? Like, wow, it's that easy. Then what?
So, I mean, I think that at the time, I was just so excited to leave the job that I was currently
Yep.
in, and I already had these teaching experiences from overseas. Because, like, I also was teaching when I studied abroad in South Korea.
Mhm.
I had some teaching experience when I worked for the Ministry of Education in Liberia, and then I also taught full-time in Guinea, but, like, I didn't have, like, a master's or anything like that, and obviously, I was teaching English as a second language. It's not like I was teaching one of their core subjects. So
Mhm.
it was like a little bit lower stakes, but I felt like, okay, I have, some experience under my belt to a degree. I know what I'm doing. I also, imagine that like if these people telling me that my demo lesson was fire and that they want me, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, I guess they're gonna train me up to
Yeah.
be the best, the best thing since sliced bread.
Yeah.
I had no like it didn't clock for me
Yes.
just
Yes.
yet
Mhm.
that like they literally throwing anybody in these damn
Mm.
classes.
Mhm. Mhm. Come on, baby girl. Come on. Come on. Why you still
So
saying yes?
I'm sorry.
No, it was like, "Come on, baby girl. Why you still saying, 'Yes, I wanna teach'? Come on, come on, come on, come on. Free time.
Yeah. And then it's like they were offering me 20K more than what I was making at that the job that I had that I
Mhm.
hated, and they
Uh-huh.
were like, "We'll subsidize your master's degree." I'm like, "Oh, bet, like, this is
Yeah.
everything that a girl could ask for," and I was like, "And y'all want me up in this school teaching my black as fuck,
Mhm. Mhm.
curriculum and stuff like that?" And then when I got there, I wasn't teaching nothing that they told me that I was gonna be teaching.
They set you up for the okey doke. They did. They set you up for the okey doke. So how long did you teach?
So I started at that charter school in 2015. I stayed there till 2017. Then I dipped out. I went to Paris for a year. I was teaching
Mhm.
in Paris, came back 2018 to like 2020. I was teaching again. And then 20 until 2022. So I would say full-time charter school experience total is about 6 years.
6 years. Okay, and then what made you I know we said money because we do like money.
I mean,
But
hello?
yeah. So we gotta pay for the Paris trip. We gotta pay for all the places. So,
Well,
what was your moment where like, "Okay, I am going into another career that is not teaching." Walk us through that moment.
um, so I think there were two defining moments.
Okay.
Um, the first one I had, what I would describe as a panic attack in front of
Mhm.
my students, at the charter school that I was teaching at in Houston.
Mm.
Um, and it was, like, so bad, I had to, like, leave the classroom, like, walk out, like, one of my, colleagues happened to be outside. She saw me, like, crying, and she was just like, "Oh my god, do you need me to stand in here?" She came in the room, she stood with my kids for, like, 5 minutes. I had to go outside into the parking lot, weeping, sobbing, heavy breathing, like, it was a lot.
Yeah.
It was a lot going on, and, I was like, "I have to get" like and the thing is, I had been frustrated with, different things over the 6-ish years that I had been in charter school, but I never had a reaction like that where it felt like my body was, like, in panic
Mhm.
mode. And
Mhm.
so I was just like, "I have to get out of here, like, I
Yeah.
can't stay."
Yeah.
And there were some other, like, things going on in my personal life or whatever that were making it really challenging at the time, and so I confided in, one of the deans at the time, and she told me, like, "Apply for family use the Family Medical Leave, Act or
Mhm.
whatever to get you some time off, to get your head right, whatever, whatever." So at first, I was kinda just skeptical, like, "What's that, girl?"
Yeah.
But it's a real thing, and you're entitled to it. You pay
You
you
just hear
pay
that. Y'all are entitled to medical leave.
Yeah.
If you need to leave, go get you some leave because it is I feel like I always equivalent, like, teaching to being in the military. I don't care if someone wanna fight me about it, they can fight me. I don't fight, but I will say something. I'll go
Additional
back and forth. if they got a problem, but it is the military, like, you it's the fact that this job, it looks cute, like, okay, I'm in a classroom, I'm teaching, but for the profession to, like, literally cause you to have, like, a physical reaction, I know you're not the only one.
Yeah.
I had a moment when I was an administrator where I'm typically good in front of the kids, but I had a moment where I was in my office, I was like, I'm literally like, tears are coming down my face, and I am like, this is so much, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I never cry in front of students, but I'm like, "This is happening right
Yeah.
now," and I was like, "I cannot continue doing this," and I feel like any educator, if you've ever had a moment where you had either physical, mental breakdown, panic attack, etcetera, that is traumatic, that is
Mhm.
trauma, that is why you can have a medical leave, and even more so a reason not just to chase you out of the classroom, but just let that be a sign, like, okay, maybe it's worth you looking into another profession. You
Yeah.
know, I know not every teacher feels like that, but I feel like a lot of teachers do, and they just kind of it gets swallowed down, like, "Oh, you just had a day. It's okay. It happens." But it's like, this is given a little bit of abuse type of thing of saying that
Yeah.
it's
I
okay.
have an
Bad.
abusive relationship with my job.
Yeah. Okay, so that was one moment. What was the other one?
So, yeah, so got approved for the leave, and then they actually approved me for 3 weeks. It varies
Okay,
depending on your school, your state, whatever, whatever. They approved me for 3 weeks.
okay,
Those 2 weeks happened to fall right in between Thanksgiving break and Christmas break. So
okay.
instead of me having 3 weeks paid off, I had 6.
Good.
And then because of COVID, when I came into contact with someone who, potentially had COVID, they were taking it very seriously, so then they were like, "You have to stay at home for
Yeah,
the next 2 weeks," or whatever, so my 6 weeks turned into 8 weeks, and
perfect.
during that time, all I was doing was pounding the pavement trying to figure out how
Mhm.
to get out, and
Yeah.
so the next defining thing that happened was what I was telling you about earlier, where I signed up for the resume audit workshop.
Mhm.
So, I brought my resume to the Zoom ready, for whatever it is that this lady told me
But let
that I
me
was.
explain it to them a little bit. So basically, Carla had found someone was doing a resume audit. So it was
Mhm,
free. She's like, teachers, we are resourceful. Let's find me a free resource. And she came on that call. The difference with what Carla did, because there were other people on this call. So it was a free audit call.
mhm.
There are some people who were at brunch, they in their bed, they whatever, but Carla came
Hard
ready,
meal prepping.
she said, "I'm ready," and the coach, basically said, "Hey, if you have a resume, put it in the chat." And Carla had hers ready for the chat. So walk us through a little bit about that experience, because this is good for any teacher who is doing the hitting the ground pavement, like throwing resumes and wondering why it's not sticking. Because that's what you were saying before. You were submitting things, but nothing was biting back. So walk
Yeah.
us through a little bit of what happened and like the light bulb moment of how you were able to then go on and get interviews. So walk us through that.
Yeah, so I dropped my resume in the chat, and this was actually a resume that was reviewed by a resume writer. So, and I'm thinking like, oh, it's cute and everything like that. So the recruiter woman who was like leading the audit, she's like, recruiters typically are looking at your resume for like 30 seconds to a minute. So you have to speak to them in a way that they are, sure that they want to make a phone call to you. And so I put my resume in the chat, and then she was like, "All right, y'all, I'm gonna put 30 seconds on the clock, and I want y'all to write in the chat based on this resume that you see in front of you. What are you hiring this person for?" So then everybody in the chat, they're dropping social studies instructor, they're dropping curriculum writer, principal, assistant principal, history, that like all the things that I no longer wanted. At this point, I'm like, I don't want none of these jobs. Like, I don't. So that was when it clicked for me that like the story that I'm telling with my resume is not telling the story that I want some of these tech companies to read. You understand?
Mhm.
So then she basically explained to us that, if you are a teacher, for example, who is looking to transition into some sort of like project management role or some sort of, even like a technical training role, which probably is a lot easier to speak to, but still you got to use the terminology and the jargon from these job descriptions so that when a recruiter looks at your resume, they automatically spot the keywords that they need to see in order to make them feel confident that they can pick up the phone and call you and probably have a good conversation. Because the other thing that I want some of these teachers to know is that, like, the recruiters are incentivized to find the talent. Like the more people that they can hire to fill these roles, they also get like bonuses or whatever the case might be. So you need to make their job easier
Mhm.
by
Yep.
providing them with a resume that shows them beyond the shadow of a doubt, this is the person that I need to call and speak to.
Yes. So good on. Let me pause on that and expand. So what Carla is saying is that because what a lot of teachers. That's I talk to teachers every day. They're like, "Oh, I have 10 years of experience. My experience should speak for itself. I have
No,
a bachelor's degree. I have my master's
no,
degree. I have my
no.
doctoral degree. I have all these certifications. Why aren't y'all hiring me? I have all the" but it's like the recruiter's job is to recruit. Like, so 30 seconds, most of them don't even have a pitch in 30 seconds or 60 seconds. It's usually a pitch all about, like you said, all of the role that you currently have. So the more you keep talking about the role that you have, and saying that your experience speaks for itself, it don't. And it, just let that land and know that if you because I actually have a lesson in my program, the more you keep talking about students, the more you're gonna have a job that works with them. So you really have
Mhm,
to what is the new career that I'm going into? Like, what do I want to go into? And then how does my experience translate? That is your job. If you are
mhm.
expecting someone else to market your experience for you, you're gonna be waiting for a long time. You're gonna be waiting at the bus for a long time. Because even
Correct.
with a resume writer, you still need a resume writer that is geared towards the role or, the general gist of, like, the role that I'm applying for. When I read this resume, I need to see, "Okay, Carla, for this position, okay, I see that, let me call her. Tell me your thoughts."
Mhm. Yeah, so I mean, you hit it on the nose, and like for any of the teachers who are going to see this, to get even a little bit more specific and maybe give an example, because I also have had conversations with people who want to transition. I'm like, it's not enough for you to say that like you've created lesson plans, your student scores were this high, or whatever the case might be. Let's take the project management role for example. If you look at multiple different project management job descriptions, what you'll start to see is that essentially, they want folks who have experience leading something from, from start to finish. They want someone who has experience identifying what are the milestones along this product journey
Mhm,
that, we're going to need to check back in and assess this. Sometimes there might even be A and B testing. And
mhm,
so it's just like, when you start to see those sorts of terminology, you have to model the experience that you
mhm,
have after what it is that they're talking about.
right,
So maybe and then also like you start referring to your students depending on what type of role you're looking for, you might have to start referring to your students as
yep,
stakeholders
correct.
or you might have to start referring to them as partners.
Yep,
And so, yes, you showed up in class and you taught the kids and stuff like that. When I thought that I wanted to go after like some operations roles, I started looking at, okay, well, people who work in operations roles, what do? They oftentimes are finding ways to simplify a tech stack. They're finding ways to save the C-suite money. They're
mhm,
finding ways to what you call it, streamline processes that make work productivity increase,
mhm,
things of that nature. So I started to think about some of the things that I did as a teacher that were some of them were outside of the classroom.
mhm,
Um, and so, for example, like I planned a trip for my students, right? I did the research on the trip. I what you call it, figured out the budget.
yep,
I collaborated with so and so to make sure that this happened. And so basically, I talked about my experience planning this trip as a teacher in the
mhm.
same way that a program or a project manager would talk about leading a project from end to end. So that's what I mean when I say that, like, you gotta speak that language.
Yes. Now, another question that I know teachers have is that, "Okay, well, how do I learn about this stuff? Do I have to get another degree? Like,
Whoa.
how did you even" so, because it sounds like and I know the answer, but I want you to kinda tell me, like so it's that's one thing. So, like, we do have to market our experience, but in order for us to even because some of them don't know what marketing their experience is, but we just explained it. You're just basically speaking in a language that the recruiter understands for you doing that role. That's marketing
Mhm.
experience. But
Yeah.
the next step, I feel like you do need to take some time and learn what this new job is. Because I
Yes.
think what happens with teachers is just how you got hired, like, as for the teaching position. They said, "Okay, we want you to do this," and then basically we'll train or not really train you, and then you get in there and you basically, like, you don't really know what you're signing up for, you're doing it, they give you some training, they don't, whatever, but, like, that's the job, like, "Just come work here and we'll figure it out."
Mhm.
Versus for corporate, you're working for a business, so you have specific jobs, and whenever you're hired, like, they do have a job description and you are gonna be doing that job description. So it's like they're telling you straight up, "This is exactly what you're doing. I need you to tell me how you do it." So there is time required to learn about this new job that you're going into. So talk about a little bit about how you took time to learn it. Like, what was that process like?
So my first role outside of the classroom ended up being what, on paper, the role was called senior revenue no, workflow revenue specialist, which
Mhm,
is like a mouthful. Like, what is that?
mhm,
Um,
mhm,
Essentially, it was the company's fancy way of saying, "We need someone who is really strong at teaching people how to use our software."
yeah,
That's great. That's very strongly aligned with what I'm already doing, child.
yes,
So, whatchamacallit, however, because, so that position that I had also worked very closely with the sales team
mhm,
because sometimes with larger deals where they were trying to sell a larger, package of software seats, they might want a person like me who has more technical knowledge of the product to sit in on those deals
mhm,
whenever the buyers are over here like, "Well, what about this? Well, can I do this? And what about
yeah,
that? Well, how do I do that?" So, whatchamacallit, so there was an element of, like, doing in sales what is called discovery that I
mhm,
had because, I had actually taken a part-time sales job,
mhm,
once I quit my teaching gig. I had actually gotten 2 so I got accepted into, like, a tech sales boot camp,
mhm.
um, which didn't cost me anything, and this is early 2022 when people were being very generous. So,
Mhm.
I don't know
Yes,
if you
you may not find as many, y'all, because people ask, but, like, 2020 and 2022, that was a sweet spot. That's also when I left in 2022,
Yeah,
2021. So, like, that you may not see as much stuff. Right now, the boot camps and stuff that I see are, like, it's free, but it's like an internship or it's like a job placement. Like, some of them, like, they will help you get hired, but then they get a percentage of it.
on the
Um
back end, you get yeah.
Yeah, so those are what, boot camps are if y'all are, aware, but essentially you it sounds like, though, you took time to learn different things, they started compiling off of each other, like,
Yeah.
was work, so, like, I would say how tell us, like, kind of how much time did you spend doing this?
So, let's see, I wanna say, like, so my FMLA kicked in after Thanksgiving, of 2021. So during that time, I still was like, doing a little this, that. I would say from December is when I went to the resume audit
Mhm,
workshop where I then learned about the fact that like my resume needed to tell a different story. And
mhm,
then the woman who led that, she was like, I have a job search boot camp that helps, women, people of color, essentially marginalized communities get better prepared to have high paying tech roles. She was like, "You're underrepresented. We
mhm,
need to get you into these rooms."
yeah,
And she was okay.
mhm, mhm,
Um, and she
mhm,
took her expertise as a recruiter, created this program, and it was great. And there was also a component of her job search boot camp that was like interview prep. That's another thing that like interviewing for a teaching job is not the
they
same as
100,000,000
interviewing for a job at a tech company. I had 4 rounds of interviews for the company that I ultimately landed at. And I'm telling you, if I did not have that background in sales discovery from that boot camp that I was a part of for a little bit, and then if I did not have the job search boot camp, to kind of like prepare me for like negotiating salaries, like all that kind of stuff, I promise you I would not have gotten through all 4 of those interviews. So there is some preparation that you do need to do. And I will say I enrolled in her program beginning of January, like January 11th of 2022. I got my offer from the software startup that I ended up working at for a year and a half. I got my offer from them in like mid-March of that same year. And her slogan, she's like, "I will get you hired in 10 weeks or less." I got
Mhm.
hired in 8. I said, "Oh,
Yes, ma'am. Man, you was let's talk about this. So, like, that means it took some time. I just all the stuff that I'm getting is from people I work with or people on the internet, the teachers on the internet. Like, it is my job to research the teachers. My goal is to help them. But
yeah,
I see teachers where it's like, oh, like they're looking for a job in the next week. They
yeah,
want everything that you want. They want the tech job. They want the remote job. They want a job that pays them more money. That they a corporate girly, but they want it tomorrow, and they don't wanna do any. So it's talk to the teachers who feel like, because I think what's happening is they're taking the teacher experience, the teacher hiring experience, and expecting that in corporate.
Yeah. It's not the same. It's not the same, and I also think that, we're in the job market that we're in now, it doesn't favor people looking for jobs, it favors the companies. Because,
Mhm.
like, during the pandemic, I think that companies were just wanting to make more of an effort to accommodate people. There were more people who were willing to accept folks who had non-traditional backgrounds because it was getting harder and harder to find talent, like, during the pandemic. And so, cushy benefits and all this other stuff was like part of what a lot of people were being offered so that
Mhm.
companies could retain talent. But
Yeah.
like once them return to office mandates started and, people were starting to get back to life as normal,
We're getting
like,
certifications during the 2020, so they're being more of a talent pool, people who have the talent now. So
yeah.
I feel like, 'cause again, I got hired during that time, and I feel like you didn't have to do as much
Mhm.
to get hired. You still have to do stuff, but, like, now it's like like, I say standing out is required, and like you said, like, for the company benefit, like, you have to stand out as you have to stand out from everybody else. Like, I think some teachers also think that they're the only ones, like, when they get an interview, they think they're the only ones who got the interview. They're like, "Yeah, I got an interview. I'm waiting to hear back." I was like, "Girl, why are you waiting to hear back? They talking to 10 other people. You should be talking to other
Mhm.
people as well." Until you get that job offer, you need to keep talking to other people. And
Absolutely.
they think they're the only ones being interviewed. So, had one client like, "Oh my gosh, I'm competing with other people." I'm like, "Yeah, that's the gig here. That's what you're doing.
Mhm.
And there will be a second round." They're like, "Oh, it's a third round." I'm like, "Yeah, there'll probably be a fourth." Like,
Yeah.
for working for a business, like you said, it's the favor of the company. So they need to know that you are going to be helping the company, like
Mhm.
standing out bare minimum, you need to know the job. You gotta be prepared to talk about how you do the job, and you have
Yeah.
to know something about that company and talk about how you're gonna come in and help. Tell me your
Mhm.
thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think one thing that's super important to understand is that, like, confidence is super important because you have a limited amount of time if you can get in front of somebody. That's not the time to be all playing modest and, well, I only did 550. No, girl. Like, and that's another one. That's a good one. Know your mother numbers. Know your numbers. Okay. Like, I literally just had a phone interview the other day and I knew there were some areas where I was just like, damn, like I know I don't have that experience. I know I don't have that. I had my answers ready because I knew she was going to ask me about this. She's like, "Oh, so tell me about your experience with QBRs." And I'm just like, okay, well, the position that I'm in right now is new. It's never existed at this company before. We're still building. So we haven't officially had QBRs yet. However, when it comes to adoption, this is what I'm doing, in terms of adoption in this many days, this percentage. This is how I'm doing compared to account managers, to accounts that don't have account managers. I'm outperforming them by 26%.
Mhm.
Like, know your
Mhm.
number.
Yep.
Cause they're not gonna sit here. They don't
Yeah.
have time to be
Yeah.
over here. Okay, so when you say that you have strong adoption, like what exactly does that mean? They don't have time to be
Yeah.
asking these
Yeah.
questions and trying to paint the picture in their mind.
Yeah.
You have to paint the picture for them. You have to
Say
paint it
that
so
again.
clearly. Yeah, you have to paint it so clearly that there is not a shadow of a doubt in their mind that they want to get you in front of the next person who's going to make a decision. And even then, sometimes you might be super good, but there might be some other person who just
Yeah.
maybe has more experience or whatever. And so that's why you also got to be resilient because you're going
Mm,
to be doing all of these sorts of things in multiple rounds at multiple different companies. It can
mm.
be tiring.
Yeah, it is it's like there are what I'm hearing is, like, there are skills that needs to be learned that teachers have not been taught before.
Yep.
You haven't been taught this before, so I think what's happening is they don't have those skills,
Yeah.
and then they go and try to do it, and then because they don't have that I have an interview tomorrow from like, teaching you have an interview tomorrow and you're hired in 2 weeks.
Yep.
They are expecting to get an interview tomorrow and be hired in 2 weeks. They're
Yep.
gonna have to actually dance. You're gonna dance for this money in the loving way possible. You're gonna have to dance for this money. Tell them
Love.
exactly, like, when you're in the interviewing, I tell my clients this, like, they are literally envisioning because typically whenever you're doing account management, you're probably gonna be responsible for thousands. For me, I was responsible for, like, $2 million a year in my company. they need to see, okay, do I trust Carla with this money? Like that's what they're looking at. Like, can I see Carla with my clients? Can I see clients talking to Carla and wanting to renew? Can I see it? And that's what you have to paint the picture. They're
Yeah.
not going to, okay, like you said, like, I think you have potential. Can you tell me? They're not doing that. They're
You
not.
gotta teach them. You have to make their job easy. They're trying to fill so many requisitions sometimes. You have to tell them that you are the person to solve the problem. And
Mhm.
then sometimes they don't even be asking me questions all the time about certain metrics, and I'll throw metrics in there anyway. Like, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I have a method I tell my clients, like, I tell people that I can sell ice to people in Antarctica. I don't care what ice you got up in Antarctica, you don't have this one. Let me tell you why you need
Mhm.
this ice,
Yeah.
okay? Like, that's the energy that needs to be in the interview. I always tell my clients, we don't hire nervous Nancy's. So if you over
Mm.
here nervous, I'm nervous because if you nervous, that means you'll be nervous with the clients. I'm not interested. If you are I call it, I made these names up just for fun, but
Yeah.
unknowledgeable Ursula who don't really know anything about this job. I'm like, so why are you wasting my time at this point? You don't know
Yeah.
what you're talking about. You over here nervous, yapping Yesenia. Like I'm like, girl, I asked you a question and why haven't you answered it yet? Or like, it's next. And then they turn around and be like, oh, like, woo, recruiters, why aren't they calling me back? I'm like, ma'am,
Because
we
the thing is, and I learned this just in a personal interaction with two friends. Well, I'm no longer friends with them, but when you don't show up confident and you're like nervous and you're second guessing yourself, you are planting fear and nervousness in the minds of the people who are supposed to be trusting you to do this thing.
mm,
So now, when you have demonstrated that you're not sure, now I don't feel confident about your ability to do it. So I'm gonna keep my options open as far as like, because really and truly, like when you think about dating, like you don't want the dude that's over here talking about, well, cause I was gonna see if you was maybe
I was gonna
available.
wait, I was gonna send you some flowers. I was
I
gonna
was gonna ask, okay?
do that. I don't want the flowers should be sent. What are you talking to me about?
Right. And like I just want, especially because we're probably talking to mostly women, right? And so like
Mhm,
for the women's that are listening, like think about how confident and assured you feel when that's the way that a man shows up,
mhm,
who says that he's interested in you and he wants to court you and da 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 whatever, whatever, but he's sending you WYD text,
mhm.
no date confirmation. He not asking you about yourself. He not showing no real interest. Like that doesn't make you feel confident that he's the person that's gonna, you know what I'm saying, like come into your life and add value. So similarly, when you're talking to these recruiters, when you're talking to these hiring managers, they don't want no, well, I think I can put this information in a spreadsheet. I
Give me a
on a
chance.
week,
Just give me a
yeah,
chance.
like on a weekly basis, I'm entering XYZ data into this number of spreadsheets and I'm doing it in this number of time. I'm doing it before deadline. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and you have to be able to rattle that off.
So practicing out loud is a thing. Like you actually have to practice. So it's a lot of skills to learn. But
Hmm.
do you think that any teacher is capable of going into a corporate position? What do you say about people who are like, oh, no one's hiring teachers? What are your
I mean, I feel like that's a lie.
mm, say that one
And
more time. Say that one more time.
that's a lie.
Mm,
And I'm also impressed in 2025 at how many people are still interested in hearing about my teaching background when I go
mm,
into interviews.
mm,
Like I'm always very surprised at how
mhm.
much people are just like, "Oh, tell me more."
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you get caught up in and that's the thing. If somebody does ask you to tell them more about your teaching experience, you should still be hitting on data points
Yes.
from
Oh my
uh,
gosh.
teaching experience that underscore why you should be this project manager or why you should be this account manager. Okay.
I love that you said that because so with my clients, I tell them I don't know if you watch the movie Encanto, but
Mm-mm.
there's a thing, it's a song that says we don't talk about Bruno, and I tell my clients the students are Bruno. Do not mention Bruno's name. Do not talk about
Mm-mm.
students at all. But
Mhm.
sometimes the role has students, etc. So they will get a question. They're like, "Oh, so tell me about your teaching experience." And they're like, "Let me tell you everything that has nothing to do with the job." Like they think that one little moment and they took it and ran with it. But
Right.
again, they're gonna ask because people are always enthused to know you're a teacher. But like you said, it's at the end of the day, they're hiring you for this role right here. So you
Right.
can tell your teaching experience, but it needs to be still sold to the role that you are going into. So it's a skill of marketing is what it is.
Yeah.
It's marketing your skills and selling your skills and remembering what they're hiring you for. Don't start
Mhm.
talking about, "Oh, yeah, I hosted the holiday party at my school, and I did lesson plans, and we baked cookies, and I'm just so passionate about the
And
students."
it's
And
like, okay,
mhm,
honestly, because somebody might be listening and being like, I was so proud of that holiday party. Okay, boom. What was the impact? What were people saying about the holiday party after it happened? Were you able to do the holiday party under budget? How many people were in attendance at the holiday party? You understand what I'm saying?
correct,
What
correct.
was the impact? You
Yes.
know?
Like, you led it, you are the one who lead the events. At the end, the satisfaction survey was, 100% people really enjoyed it. You actually then went into training people, so you are the go-to, not just hospitality person, but you are the trainer for all the events because you know how to get people interested, sell it, and it is
Exactly.
a skill, and I will tell people because some people are like, "Oh, I don't know how to do that." You have to
Yes,
practice.
you can.
You know how to do it, and you just have to practice. Because a lot of them, they wanna practice one time before the interview. I'm like, "Man, we gotta practice with
Yeah. I revised my elevator pitch so many times during that, like, 3-ish month period where I was, like, getting, ready to and, and the more experience you get with different interviews and stuff like that, you refine things even
mhm.
more. And then it got to a point where my elevator pitch was just rolling off my
Yep,
tongue, like, I'm
yep,
a, workflow specialist, and I evangelize product for
yep,
busy professionals or, like,
yep,
whatever.
yep,
Um there was
yep.
something else that I wanted to say, but, it has escaped me. Hold on. It'll come, it's
Okay.
fine.
Okay. So then tell us a little bit about like how on the other side. So you work for a tech company, so you're doing a mixture of account management. And I'll say that she's not even working in like ed tech. Like you don't have to only do ed tech. There are so like you can do any job. So all you need to do is learn the job that you're going into. Like don't
Mhm.
try to do 100 different jobs because you do have to learn the skills of each one of them. So it sounds like just learn the job, learn how to market your skills for the job, and then
Yeah.
selling your skills in the interviews over and over. You may get to the second round, third round, and they go with someone else. You just keep going at it and you will get hired.
Mhm.
So, what advice do you have for the teachers who are like, I don't, that feels like it's too much work?
Um, I would say I mean, it's work, you know? Like, decolonize your mind from thinking that it's not gonna be work, because it is.
Mhm,
Um, I think that something that was super important for me when I first started my journey is just like I was like, I'm not paying for no $3,000 boot camp
mhm,
to, whatever, whatever. Especially because one of my friends who like worked for Meta at the time saw my resume and told me like you can be a corporate trainer with the experience that you have today. She was so confident that I could. So
mhm,
for me, once I started learning about different roles that people are doing who have similar experience to me, I was like, okay, so I don't have to go out and get new credentials. And I was
mhm,
like, I also don't have the money right now to pay for
yeah,
no $3,000 boot camp.
yeah,
So my strategy was I want to find out what are some of the roles that I could probably transition into today with the skill set that I have.
yes.
My strategy. Some people are I have heard of some teachers who do these boot camps that cost thousands of
Yeah,
dollars and it works
I have a program and people do it, but I tell people you're either gonna invest time or money, but
exactly.
you can't not invest time and not invest money and fall out. Like you have because when I did my transition, I did it on my own, but it took me a long time, but I did it. So like
Mhm.
talk about like if you're not investing money, you invested time.
Yeah. And to be honest, I invested a little bit of both. So because the job search boot camp that I joined was $90 a month for 3 months. I could afford that on my teacher salary. I was like, "Okay, this is reasonable," right?
Yeah.
And then but it also but like I said, I also got my first offer in 8 weeks, which is not tremendously long when you think
Yeah.
about, how long we might be on a job search now in our, industries. So what you call it, you have to it's going to take time. You may interview with a number of different companies, and all you do is you use those other companies as experience to fine tune your skills for, the next thing if you don't
Yeah.
get that one. Um but also I think be very clear on your strategy. One of the things that was very helpful to me in the job search boot camp was we kind of did like this skills matrix. So
Mhm.
it's basically a quiz that you take that asks you about different things that you enjoy and stuff like that, and then and different things that you're good at. And then based on the results of that, it tells you like because you answered this way, you might enjoy a role in learning and development.
Yeah.
You might enjoy a role in customer success. You
Mhm.
might enjoy a role in account management.
Yeah.
And so based on those results, I started to look, I said, okay, what does a learning and development specialist do?
Mhm.
What
Mhm.
does a customer success
Mhm.
manager do? And
Mhm.
so I basically, you know, once I learned more about what they do generally on a day-to-day basis, I felt like with my skill set and my passion, those are roles that I can comfortably apply to with the skills that I have today and not have to do all this extra boot camp and all kind of thing. So
Mhm.
I targeted those roles. And so then for those 8-ish weeks that I was, you know, in the program actively working towards, I was only going after customer success and learning and development roles. The reason why I ended up getting the role that I got was because someone who was like an alumni of the job search boot camp, she came across my pitch in the Slack channel because like the alumni would still chime in the Slack community for the job search boot camp, and they would also like drop, you know, links to, oh, my company's hiring, whatever, whatever. So she had finished up the program a couple months prior, and then we connected in Slack, and she was like, well, you know, my company is hiring for a workflow specialist. She was like, you with your teaching background will probably be a really good fit. Go ahead and apply. You can use me as a referral. And
Mhm.
so that worked out for me. But then I also had a couple of other interviews with different companies. So I will say that you have to because of the fact that this is work, you have to have a strategy. Like
Yeah.
even now, I'm working on some things.
Yeah. You just can't. So it sounds like if you absolutely, I hear this often. I have clients who are like, I mean, people who don't want to invest anything at all. And that's okay. If you don't want to invest anything at all, you have a lot of
You
time.
can't do nothing.
Yeah. You have to invest time. It has to take more than a little day. Because I know my teacher people. They're like, okay, I'm gonna go all the free resources, and but it can be people who are doing free resources, and then they in the car watching stuff. They're not really applying what it is. It sounds like the skills required to do this on your own, or even with minimal. So if you just do a course, like I have an exit plan course now that's like low cost for people who want to do it, but it is DIY. There are people who can put that course and download and not do it. But it sounds like for you, even with paying hundreds of dollars, you still put in time. Like you weren't just
Yeah.
letting that sit there. You raised your hand, you asked for
Mhm.
support, you got skills, you
Mhm.
practiced. Like you were determined. Like you didn't make this optional. So I guess I would say, what what advice do you have for the person who is going to DIY this transition or do this with as like on like they are like, okay, I for sure don't have thousands of dollars. I don't have as much money to invest. What can I do and how do they need to show up to get a job?
I would say if you're gonna DIY it, I think that you just have to have an impeccable strategy as far as like, you know, who are you following on social media? Whose content are you consuming? Because one thing I will say, there are some recruiters that even today, like I'll follow them on TikTok and I'll take notes on what they're telling me, just as far as like
It's one of my lives.
how to show up in interviews and stuff like that. So I would say, you know, I mean, again, I think it just goes back to your strategy. Like if you're going to DIY this, like you have to have a strategy. The strategy is so that you don't burn out. Because
Mm,
one good thing about because if I know that every single day for the next 3 months or so that I'm going to be applying for 5 new account manager roles or 5 new CSM roles, like that, then at that point it just becomes like just rote. You know what I'm saying? But like if every day you wake up and you're like, okay, let me see how I become a product manager. Oh,
mm.
okay, I tried that. Let me see how I become a software engineer. No, no.
Mhm.
You need to pick a strategy,
Mhm. Mhm.
okay?
Mhm.
Like, I'm gonna target this, or I'm
Mhm.
gonna target this, and then you put all of your energy into doing that thing, and obviously create the systems and the materials that you need to in order to, that target that thing, and then you just keep doing that. You just keep
Yeah.
doing it until you start to build traction. Because like
Yeah.
the job search is not for the weak. And if
Mhm.
you over here trying to go after every single job, and you over here trying to tailor your resume for every single job, of course you're gonna get tired. Of
Mhm.
course you're gonna get tired.
Mhm.
Right now, there's only 2 roles that I'm targeting. 2.
Mhm.
That's it.
Mhm.
And I'm putting all of my energy, my strategy, my systems, whatever, into those 2 things. That's it.
I
Cause
love
I
it.
still, cause I still got a full-time job that I'm working right now. And I need to use my brain for that too.
Yes, yes. So what I'm hearing is it's possible there it is possible for every teacher if you're gonna DIY it, however, it is possible for you. It's just whatever you want to do. So let's leave them with how do you enjoy life now outside the classroom? And then you can give any encouragement for those just because again, I know the teachers are either like a little possibly overwhelmed or they did have in their mind that was going to be a little bit easier. They're like, okay, I
Mhm.
really do need to get off my behind. But I want to say, and you can tell me if I'm wrong. Like I feel like being in the classroom is much more work, and the work is worth it because you enjoy your life. You tell me.
Yeah. I mean, like, you're gonna put in some work on the front end, but I think you have to be thinking about what it is that you want out of the experience at the end of the day. And then you also have to be realistic with yourself about the fact that it's not gonna happen overnight.
Sure.
I kind of was starting to get fed up with certain things, and I was just like, man, like. But then I realized, like, girl, this is not something that's gonna happen overnight. And I think that you will probably stress yourself out more thinking that you need to put this pressure to like make it happen in this amount of time.
Mm,
Um, I just don't think it's realistic. I think that having a strong strategy is going to be far more like it's just going to be more sustainable for you.
mm,
But also know that, like, yes, Imma have to do my homework. Imma have to do my research. I am gonna have to take some time out of this week. Like, for me personally, like, sometimes what I'll do is I'll say, "Okay, on these days of the week, I'm carving out 1 hour to
yeah,
do something towards this goal that I'm working towards," and then that's it. Because I just spent 8 hours
yeah.
helping another $1,000,000 company keep their money. You know what I'm
Mhm,
saying? And that takes a lot of this, and it takes a lot of conversations on Zoom with the customers and stuff like
yeah.
that. So it's just like I'm tired and I still want to have some time for me. So I think again, back to that strategy, like figure out what type of roles you want to go after, devise a plan for how you're going to go after it. Don't necessarily put like a time stamp on it, okay? Because then you're
Mhm,
going to start putting pressure on yourself to achieve
mhm.
this in X amount of time. Like the universe don't work on our time,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, yeah.
But have a clear strategy and, chip away at it little by little, whether it's, however many Saturdays a month or
Mhm,
however many weeknights. I'm gonna spend 1 hour applying for 5 jobs. I'm gonna spend 1 hour learning about or practicing my interview skills or watching so and so's YouTube videos on how to interview. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's not gonna get done without the work.
so it's work. It's work, but it's worth it. It's worth
Worth
it.
it. Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you. I know that you have changed at least one person's life, their perspective about this journey. I hope that at least one teacher walks out of like after watching this, listening to this, that okay, I gotta work, but it's worth it. And it's more, I'm doing more work in the classroom. You're doing the skills already.
Mhm.
Might as well just do the work required to get paid for it. Like is that
Yeah, literally.
yes. Any last words for the people?
Any last words?
Word.
Mm, I mean, you are that girl, that man, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can do it. Just you gotta work.
You gotta
Mhm.
work. Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you for coming on here, Carla.
Thank you for having me.